Hey everybody, good Tuesday afternoon to all of you. It is your friends Matt and Russ, and we are coming to you from two different locations around the country. Me in Orlando, Florida, Russell Holler in Marble Falls, Texas. Russ, where's Marble Falls?
Marble Falls is about an hour outside of Austin, to the west, and then about an hour and a half north of where a particular basketball team plays. That I'll give you a hint. You can see the name of the basketball team in that screen, right?
Would that be
So,
the five-time NBA champions?
I think it would. I think it would. With still the greatest coach, arguably, it's either him or Bill Belichick of any sport, in my opinion. But I do have to, and we didn't plan about talking this, but Matt, I want to get, so in case nobody knows, which you should know this, Matt is an insider. He worked for the Spurs organization for how many
I
years?
worked for the Spurs organization for a combined 5 years.
5 years, which is pretty awesome. And we are joined breaking on the pod by the great Daniel Taylor. Daniel,
Is
thanks for
DT
joining.
coming in?
So,
Hey
yeah.
man,
Hey,
I t-
we are live right now.
we are live right now. I tell you what, let me see if I can get you on the screen here real quick, Daniel. Give me 1 second. All right, I think we are. We should be in good shape right now. So you are on, my man. Daniel, you got any kind of external audio besides your headset turned off right now?
Turned off?
Yeah, anything beside your headset. So you don't have any speakers or anything like that
Oh,
your microphone
no.
might be able to hear. Perfect. That sounds good, man. We did a test before you jumped on, so I just wanted to make sure that we are still good. But no. So Daniel is also joining us from the great state of Texas. Daniel, where in Texas are you located?
We live about 45 minutes south of Fort Worth in the town of Cleburne. I'm currently in Mansfield, which is where I work. But yeah, we live south of Fort Worth, so south of the Metroplex. Horn Frog country we're actually like right in the middle of Horn Frog, Baylor Bear country. It's a weird type of
Yeah,
place.
they don't count.
They don't at all.
They don't at all.
There's not very many Baylor things around, honestly.
That's a good thing. Beautifying the great city of Mansfield.
I agree.
So,
Well, and all I was going to ask for you, Matt, is the Spurs went full in
Yep.
tank mode, trading Hey Murray for
right,
Victor
exactly.
Wembanyama.
Victor Wembanyama will be a Spur in about 10 months.
Will be a Spur. Wow, you know that even if you're a bottom three team, you have a 14% chance. Right?
Well,
It's so
Well
low.
aware. You know, the year that we got Tim Duncan, we had a 2% chance of winning the lottery. That's 1-2, and the Boston Celtics had like a 45% chance because they had 2 or 3 picks in the top or in the lottery that year. And oh my gosh, I will never forget showing up at my friend's house. I'd driven over to his house, and I wasn't even paying attention to it because I figured we didn't have any chance in the world. His dad comes out and is like, "Guess what?" You know, and so that defined obviously the next 20 years for that organization. So pretty cool moment.
The statistics 2 years ago, we had a 48% chance of landing 2 top 5 picks, and we got 0 top 5 picks. We got, which is to be Josh Giddey, and I'm not playing. I love Josh Giddey, he's great. So, but all I was going to ask you this Spurred from is I just wanted to see, in your opinion, is this the beginning of the end of Pop? It's, I mean, he eventually has to retire, and it's one of those everyone thought he was going to whenever Timmy left. Everyone thought he was going to whenever Kawhi left. The man just keeps going, and I'm not complaining at all. But at what point do you think, all right, does he want to lead a tank? And what does he do from there?
Yeah, I think that's fair, Russ. To be honest with you, I do feel like it's time. I think he wants to leave the organization for whoever he has coming in following him in a good place. I don't know. I mean, Pop's his own guy, and he does his own thing, as everybody knows, and so he may want to coach till he's 95. I don't know. And he doesn't have to. He does the winery, and he does things like that alongside the court. But sadly, his wife passed away. I believe it was about 5 years ago now.
I think so.
And so he really does live and breathe basketball. That being said, obviously he turned over the reins at Team USA, and so that was kind of maybe a little tip off that he's looking to wind things down. I think he's just wanting to make sure that the talent level and the way that he leaves the organization and then the person that he wants to leave it to are both in line before he actually makes that call. But that's just me speculating. I have no inside knowledge. And so that's just my best guess, basically.
I think it's good speculation for whenever Becky Hammond takes over and becomes the first head women's coach.
I tell you what, man, she's doing an amazing job with the Las Vegas Aces right now. I know we don't talk a whole lot of WNBA on this show, but I mean they are absolutely killing it in her first year as the head coach.
They are. And then just real quick, and then I digress. My favorite was my Melissa, which these fellas know, but for the listeners, he doesn't really care about sports. He's not much into it, except for Thunder basketball. And so we had wanted to watch a game or something like that. We were grabbing a bite to eat afterwards. And it has Pop doing one of his famous Pop interviews, just in pure form and all that. And she looks at me because she catches her attention and she goes, "Is this guy for real?" I said, "Oh yeah, no, that's Pop all the time." She goes, "This guy's awesome." And just see in real time, like, this guy's a jerk, but it's fantastic, and it's great. That's
he definitely is his own man. He operates a little bit differently than a conventional head coach would be. I know in San Antonio, there's a sports talk radio show. They call him CIA Pop because even being the broadcasting partner of the San Antonio Spurs, they still can't really break any stories. There's no inside information that's really passed along, and the practice facility is completely separate from the business ops. Business ops is out of the AT&T Center where the Spurs play their games, and the practice facility is clear on the other side of town, closer to where some of the players live. And so I mean, there's no crossover there. It's a tight knit little family with basketball ops for sure. So anyway, always hard to get a read.
That's all right. So sorry to derail on that. Now, do we want to, since we're already on basketball? So Daniel, we had talked right before on the show. We were going to spend some time with college football. Probably talk about the top 25, do some predictions, and then we wanted to make sure that we hit KD in the net. So I think since we're already on basketball, let's go ahead and talk some KD in the net, and then we can jump from there. I already see you prepared, Daniel. There's something KD. And then I think after that it'll be a great breaking palate cleanser to go into some top 25 rankings and stuff like that. Does that sound good, fellas?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. You're ready.
I'll be brief. The caveat to that, again, as you two gentlemen know, is like I was born in Austin. Both my parents went to UT. Like I'm a UT fan through my life, and so like I remember Kevin Durant on the 40 acres, seeing him play on the 40 acres. Like, this dude was just unreal. And then like him getting drafted by the Supersonics, then moving to Oklahoma City, like then it was like just this really cool thing that kind of is how I became a Thunder supporter. All of those things, and they got Russ and Serge and Steven Adams, and like they had Nick Collins. Again, this whole mixture of things. But God, I don't know if there's just something crazy in the water in Brooklyn, because like him and Kyrie both, like they're destined to just destroy whatever is around them. I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on with him. But I think all you can do is look at like what we know is from history, and like I don't think going all the way back to like the Thunder exit in those days, like the dude is fragile. Like I don't understand what is driving these decisions. Even his exit interview this year they asked him about Steve Nash, and he's like, Steve's been dealt like a heck of a hand the past 2 years, and just to have this 180, I don't know. I think what I'll leave it with is I don't understand what's going on with him. If I'm Brooklyn, I don't know what else you can do. You gave essentially him the keys, and then Kyrie quickly thereafter to say, y'all make this what you want. Steve Nash is who they wanted. They've had an open pocketbook. The team around them is pretty solid. Like, and it's like we can't even get you guys on the floor to even see what it looks like for these very different reasons. But I will say this, and like a lot of different sports are going this way, but the NBA is more player controlled than any other league, and like the fact of the matter is if you give a player, no matter how great, the dude's going to be a Hall of Famer, one of the best scorers of all time, all of those things are true. If an organization gives a player that much to control to say, I want to fire my head coach, my boss, and my boss's boss, the GM, I don't know where you go from there. And so I honestly am hoping that they tell him to stay in his lane or trade him. Like trade him, that's fine. Get rid of him. See you later, buddy. Man, you want to talk about a dude that's going to leave a very lasting and confusing legacy. It's Kevin Durant, in my opinion.
So I had shot the text just real quick to see if you had seen it, Daniel. And then, Matt, I want to hear your thoughts, too, before I share mine, because we know I have a lot of feelings on Kevin Durant. But Joe tweeted out and said, I stand with the organization. Good. I'm backing them. So, yeah, he's putting his foot down, and good for him because, yeah, that's the right decision. I'm with you. Kevin Durant's going to go down as a top 10 player of all time, 15. There's room for debate. Surely 20. I think no matter who you are, everyone is at minimum 20. But it's just too much. Like you can't just go, okay, whatever you want, because then when does it end? So, which is he a good coach? I don't know. Maybe not. But I need to see him outside of that. Outside of those. But we know Sean Marks was a good GM. I mean, look at what the Nets were before. Like it was the scrappy. Like they were pushing for the 8th seed, and everybody they believed themselves and all that back then. It was a fun team. So, anyway, Matt.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting your thoughts on this, Russ, because I know that you have, followed Kevin Durant since, he was first drafted out of UT. Obviously, Daniel, you were mentioning, his time at Texas. All I know is that, I look back and I remember Kevin Durant's MVP speech, right? And where he thanked his mom and there were tears. And I mean, people, I think, after watching that said that might be one of the greatest speeches by a pro athlete that we've ever seen. It was that sentimental, right? And everybody kind of fell in love with the guy then. And ever since then, I'm not sure what the story has been, right? But he has become, very unlikable, quite frankly, right? He's been very self-absorbed. He went to the Warriors where, he really needed to be a player in a team environment. He obviously didn't get along well with Draymond and decided that wasn't for him. He did play out his contract there. So, I mean, that was respectable, right? But then to your point, Daniel, he goes to the Nets, right? And he goes to the Nets, and I think that there's probably some conversation, right, that one of the reasons he's going there is because he can control what happens from a coaching standpoint, what happens from a fellow player standpoint, right, bringing in Kyrie, which is dangerous because Kyrie and Kevin Durant are so similar as far as just being very self-absorbed, basically, right? And needing to have control. And if they don't like the way things are going, then they typically just hightail it out of there, whether they have years left on their contract or not. And honestly, LeBron's kind of the same way. He whines and complains because all of a sudden these teams that he, as the virtual GM, has helped build, they don't blend together. He's not having fun playing on them because they're not good. Well, guess what? You have been essentially the GM. You built this team, and now you just want to ditch the rest of the organization when they, basically showed faith in you and gave you this kind of undictated power, right? Under the table power. It's wrong, So I think to your point, and it goes back to kind of, what athletes in the NBA were pushing back against so much was you do have to know your role, guys. I get that, off the court, great. Do have your business dealings, build your brand. That's wonderful, right? But you also have to trust that when you sign up to join an organization, you've got to let the people that are in place do their jobs because they theoretically are truly experts at that. And they were hired to do that role because they're an expert at that role. And as much as the players would like to believe it, maybe they know more than they do. And so we've seen that happen now over and over again with these big name players in the NBA who just think that they know more than everybody, and then they whine and complain and cry all the way out, before their contract ends and create a big hissy fit. James Harden was that way last year, of course. So yeah, Daniel, I think you and I are very much on the same page. But Russ, I truly do want to hear your thoughts because you've really seen the evolution of Kevin Durant, and how did we go from 2015 Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City to 2022 Kevin Durant in Brooklyn?
Yeah, before I dive into that, I don't think it's talked about enough that James Harden and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving played, is it 17 or 19 games together?
Yeah, it was not very many.
That's
largely because Irving just didn't want to get the vaccine, which no matter how you feel about the vaccine, those two guys agreed they wanted to play with each other. So, yeah.
It's crazy to me, but no. Just moving on. Besides that, I'll try not to get onto his soapbox. I think it was two things. I think whenever he was younger, he was more easily, and maybe still this way, influenced by people. So he had his inner circle of maybe his mom, maybe his uncle, whoever it is, that was just giving him the narrative, because everybody, and I mean, it's hard to believe that it was a decade ago now, but everybody kept saying, hey, this is the next Tim Duncan, this is the next Kobe Bryant, this is going to be one of the last players that is going to stick a whole time with the franchise. And it really is hard to see that ever happening again. It really is. I think Luka might in the current NBA. I think Giannis might in the current NBA. But are you noticing a theme here? Those guys aren't from the States. The people that are from the States, they want to go play in New York. They want to go play in LA. They want to go play, in the big markets. And that's fine. You do you. I get it. That's cool. But it's becoming a thing where basically the international players, Jokic will probably be with him for his whole career. They are the ones that are like, hey, I want to stick here because these guys took a chance on me. I want to stick here. And everybody thought that's who Kevin Durant was going to be too, including myself. Kevin Durant had a restaurant in downtown Oklahoma City called KD's. I ate there many times. He really was a staple. And I'm glad that this comes up, because people that aren't from Oklahoma have a hard time understanding what the Thunder have done for Oklahoma City. If you, I don't have pictures available right now, but if you just take Google, take 2 minutes and Google downtown Oklahoma City, 1999, or even 2005. Right now, compared to now, night and day. It was empty, and there was and it was, and you owned downtown like a government worker, or you needed to take care of business for something that was down there. And because of the Thunder, it is now where you go to have fun. For town it has too. And job side, I think prior to the Thunder, I know for a fact that the metropolitan area was less than 1 million people, and I think they're approaching 1.5 million people now, which is still not huge, but I mean, for it's the biggest. And so the Thunder did so much, and we didn't know what we had because we had never had a professional. So it really is easy to go, terrible, a 60 and 20 record, or 20 and 60 record, whatever it was, to suddenly making it to the playoffs, to suddenly being in the Western Conference Finals, to suddenly being in the finals, year after year after year. And it was we couldn't even comprehend, this is not normal. This is not a thing that happens with franchises. And so I think we're learning that now. All that to say, to give the context into, I think that if KD had so many outside sources, and if he would have stayed, he really would have been happy. And I, where the Thunder is at now, I'm excited for the future. So it is what it is. This is not me being like, KD, I wish you would have stayed. Would it have been great? Awesome. But I just think that he was wanting to go see, all right, I'm going to go to Golden State. And then he didn't find happiness. there, or the titles, whatever it is, it wasn't enough. And so then he went, you know what, I'm going to go to the market, and it got even worse. And so I don't really know where he goes from here. Yeah, honestly, everybody keeps saying the Thunder could give the best trade package, and we could, but we just have no desire to. We're not ready to compete. So I think outside the Thunder, I think the Magic could give a really good trade package for him. But are any of the smaller franchises willing to do it? Because what's going to stop him from going, all right, I'm out. If you don't send me, yes, he has a list, but he's under contract for 4 more years, and so he has to go wherever they send him, and that's the good. They don't really have to use him. They can get the best package and the next franchise care. But then the smaller franchises go, okay, well, how long is he even going to play for us? And so then it really does kind of whittle to where, Boston, there's rumors about that. Do I believe it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. All these others to where it's like, are we even willing to go for it?
Yeah.
It's
well, and then does a guy like that become a cancer to the rest of a young team? Like I know here that it's amazing, guys. I don't know that I've ever seen a team that has better chemistry than what this Orlando Magic team has. And I think we talked about it a little bit in the first podcast, but I mean, those guys are brothers. It's amazing. They do all sorts of stuff off the court with each other. On the court, they have fun. They have a young head coach who's energetic, who is a player's coach. It's just a really cool atmosphere. And so, and honestly, I think it's why the Magic aren't probably interested in Donovan Mitchell either. Not that he's a cancer. I don't believe that he is, but they just have such a good young chemistry that, why mess with that when it's still developing, right? Once you get a little bit closer, then maybe you make that move where you say, okay, maybe we have one too many guys in the backcourt. Let's move somebody out so that we get our rotation a little bit straighter, and then bring in maybe somebody who's that missing piece between us currently in a title. But I think with Kyrie, with Durant, with Westbrook, with Harden. Sorry, Russ, piling on your old Thunder guys, but I mean, honestly, why would you want to bring one of those guys in unless you really felt like they were just going to be that one missing piece, and then maybe you bring them in, short term just to see from a chemistry standpoint if they're a fit, and if they don't work out, then you just let them move on at the end of the year.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. Right.
And with that, I agree. I think that now I think we've talked about this. I think it may have been in the previous podcast days, but like, I am someone that I think this idea of like a player's allegiance, I've always found interesting. I've always found the NFL guy that gets drafted in the 4th round, and he's like Dak Prescott, 3rd round. He's like, I want to make 31 other NFL teams, or 29, whatever. I want to make everybody else pay. And I'm like, you realize that the Cowboys skipped you 3 times too, right? Like that. It's this very interesting kind of thought process. But with that, like, I am someone that, again, like, my outside of the Red Sox, like, I watch the most professional soccer, and like professional soccer, team allegiance doesn't matter. You're a means to an end, man. Like, and like, I think that is more of a way of like, teams again, I guess all of what I'm saying is I don't disagree with the shift of like, dude, they are using you to score points, fill stats, put butts in seats, and like win games. So like, you don't have to take this hometown deal. Like, get what you can. So I like, even back to what you were saying about Oklahoma City is like, hey man, the city built that. But the interesting thing, and like, I think what I will close with on KD is I think that there's been times in life that just like anybody else as a young professional, like he's listening to these other voices, and like, again, in Oklahoma City, like being close to a ring and then falling away, and like him taking that, like him like just missing it, then to be like, I think at that point in time it was, if you get a ring, your legacy is complete. And then he goes to the team that beat him, he gets a ring. But then it's, well, that's not your team. That was Steph's team. Again, like the voices that he's hearing is, well, that wasn't yours. So now you've got to go get it yourself. And so then he goes, all right, I'm going to go to Brooklyn. I'm going to I'm going to get all of this player control, just like LeBron James has so much player control in Miami. And like these bigger players have control. Believe me, I live in the Dallas market. And like one of the biggest things that they'll say about Luka is like, where is Luka right now? He's not here. He's back home in Slovenia and he's playing for Slovenia. Like he is doing these things for his home country. And they're like, we wish that you would be here and give more input about like who's doing what on your team and stuff like that. And he's like, Luka at this point in time is like, that's not my job. My job is to play basketball. And again, it's not. I'm not gonna go LeVar Ball and say stay in your lane, like only be a basketball player. But like, in the terms of whenever you were on your contract, for 48 minutes a night, like you're a basketball player. And so, like the thing that I find just humorously frustrating about this is, it feels like KD, from what we know, he was given control to say like, hey, you pick the head coach, so you get to be a player head coach and you get to be a player GM. And now 2 years into this thing, it's gone horribly. And he's like, well, I want to fire them both. I'm like, fire yourself, dude. Like, you did it. You did it. Yes. So, like, you're blaming somebody else for things that you wanted and were given illicit control over, then you don't like the way that things have done. But, like, I think that's what it is. Like, what voices is he continuing to listen to? But I wish him the best. I don't know who takes that leap, though. I mean, somebody will, of course. But I agree, like, the size of the market of that dude's under contract to, I don't know if it's until 24, 25 or 25, 26. If you're anybody, how do you think he's going to make it that long? Because at this point in time, you're like 2-3 years tops, and then he wants out.
Yeah, for sure. Also, side note, for all the Mavericks fans that are listening, get prepared to watch the ultimate empty calorie guy in Christian Wood. He's going to score you so many points. He's not going to help with winning at all. So just be prepared for that. Just setting expectations right now. Luka might win MVP because he's actually in shape, which this is coming from a guy who I'm out of shape. So I'm not saying he's doing better than I could. He's been like preseason MVP votes number one for like 3 years in a row, and he just doesn't care until he gets in shape. He's actually in shape. So like if I'm putting money down, it's probably Luka this year, but his second best guy. Yeah, Christian Wood is probably a second best guy. Maybe Spencer did.
Yeah, probably. I mean, what version of Spence do you get? Can Tim Hardaway learn to pass the ball? I mean, there's lots of questions.
But Tim Hardaway now, has he been passing? So I'm not sure he can learn. So either way.
Okay, I've got the as we transition, I've got the they put out the Coaches Association college football rankings, and so I've got this here. I've got it pulled up on my computer. So the top 25 came out, I think this was yesterday. Can I start with one caveat?
Of course.
The reason that Texas is so easy to hate is because one person of all of these first place votes, Alabama takes 54, they're number 1. Ohio State takes 5 first place votes, they're number 2. Georgia takes 6, they're number 3. Clemson is 4, Notre Dame 5. I'll go through the rest in a minute. Way down the list at 18, who lost to Kansas last year at home, is Texas, which should they be 18? No, but they're always going to find their way into the top 25 no matter what, because that's a brand. That's fine. I can't wait to who is the one person who voted for Texas? I feel like this was, I don't remember what it was, but it's been in the past couple months. Jalen Rose. Oh, it was for NBA first team. Somebody voted for Kyrie Irving on first team, and they were ranting about it. And Jalen Rose was like, yeah, that was me. Like, you shouldn't get to vote anymore, bro. Like, whoever voted that Texas received a first place vote, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
There's no way. We talked briefly right before we started the pod on.
Dude, it's just like you just want everyone to hate Texas. I get it, man. I get it, but okay. All right, that's my caveat. All right, number 1 Alabama, unanimously. Number 2 Ohio State, 3 Georgia, 4 Clemson, 5 Notre Dame in that comfortable spot. We get Notre Dame, Ohio State, first game of the year. 6 Michigan, 7 A&M, 8 Utah, 9 OU, 10 Baylor.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, you're doing top 10. Hold on, you can't even include. You might as well do 11 right there. Pistol firing, Oklahoma State. 11.
Oklahoma State.
Gotta include Oklahoma State. Come on.
I would say some other notables as we go down the list. USC, new look USC at 15. Texas is 18. Not that I don't think that's particularly notable. U of H rounds it out at 25. You've got less SEC schools than normal, I would say, to start a season. I would think. Well, I don't know. You've got Kentucky, Arkansas, and Ole Miss all in the 20s. So maybe not as much, but pretty typical. Alabama at number 1. Anybody have any thoughts otherwise? Who thinks that shouldn't happen? Even though Saban's like, it was a rebuilding year and you made it to the Natty, everyone feels so sad for you.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think Alabama and Ohio State every year, you've got to just assume that those guys are going to have a spot in the playoff, right? I mean,
Agreed.
yeah, Georgia, I think it's real hard to argue against them this year. They lost some guys on defense. That's always a tough thing, right? But I mean, that program is so deep. They should just be able to reload there, and they might skip a few beats, but I mean, if they lose one game, maybe even 2 games, they still have a shot at the CFP, right? So,
they're still on the easy side of the SEC, so yeah, they'll be fine.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think then the question is, okay, you've got those 3 teams that I mean, do you guys disagree that those 3 teams will most likely be in the playoffs?
No, I think it would be pretty wild if one of those 3 didn't. Like, I think anything's possible, of course, but if the safe bet is those 3 are almost human.
So who's number 4?
Clemson, which I think is the first big surprise. I mean, as a number 4 seed should be, but Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5, Michigan 6. But there's another Big Ten side.
What I'm saying is, who's the 4th team at the end of the year, though, in the playoffs?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think if USC gets hot, I mean, if USC gets hot and does what they need to do, I'm not super familiar with what their schedule is,
right.
But we are all very aware of who they have at quarterback and who they have as their head coach and calling plays.
Right.
And you're adding Jordan Addison, the Biletnikoff winner from last year from Pittsburgh, which I just want to know what those NIL deals. Which I want to bring back something to NIL at the end of this. Don't let me forget. But I mean, USC, if that thing can meld together quickly, that's one of the more flashy, talented teams in the country. Now, depth, those are things that I'm not even going to pretend to know or speak on. OU's the same thing, man. If OU's pulling in 4 and 5 stars like left and right, and so like yes, their coach is gone. They've got to replace a quarterback, but they've got 3 5 stars in the stable. So like that one feels like the Big 12. It's really going to be who's the other conference that gets it.
Yeah.
Is Clemson ready? Is DJ Ungalau? Is he for real? Is he not?
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Russ.
I'm with it. I know that's kind of like a cop-outy type answer, but it really is. It's whatever conference can get it. You can get them in there. I like your thoughts, Daniel, on USC. I think I see a pretty easy path in which them happening. But that's the thing is we have learned that outside of the SEC, you essentially have to be undefeated and win your conference to get a spot. And for right or for wrong, and I do think, and I haven't kept track as much. I don't know if there's been talks more about expanding beyond 4 teams, which I just think is a no-brainer, and I don't understand why they haven't done it yet. But you really, Matt, what I was saying is it's a cop-out answer, but you really do, unless you're part of the SEC, in my opinion, and I'm also biased and always a little hurt because we're from the Big 12. It feels like you have to be undefeated and win your conference in order to have a chance at that spot, at one of the top 4. And so as far as to who that is, OU stands out. USC, I think is possible too. I don't know. I am not a believer in Michigan, so I just have a hard time thinking them. But you never know. I don't know. I know that's not like a concrete answer, but I just think until they expand it beyond 4, you have to be perfect, pretty much. So.
Yeah, I agree, Russ. This is a tough year to pick that number 4 spot. I'm not a believer in Clemson, I'll be honest. I feel like their defense is going to be really solid. Their offense was so bad last year that I just don't see them going from nothing to something. And they've got really 3 teams in the ACC that I think are all dangerous to them. I haven't looked at their non-conference. I'm not sure who they have non-conference, but they've got NC State, they've got Wake Forest, and they've got Pitt, all in conference. And to me, any of those could be losses for them on any given day. And certainly having to play an ACC championship game also. What you got, Daniel? Who are they playing non-conference?
They've got, nobody. They've got Furman, Louisiana Tech. No offense, Louisiana Tech. They've got nobody. South Carolina.
Okay. They do have South Carolina, and that
they have South Carolina to end it. But that's you're going to get an SEC school the last week of the season. Like, how many players are they going to have in the hospital?
But that's a rivalry game though, and I can't remember. I had forgotten that they play them every year. But that school is really turning things around. They've got of course Beamer's kid is their coach. Frank Beamer's kid is their coach, and then their quarterback is the former OU quarterback Rattler, Spencer Rattler. Yeah. And so that could be a dangerous game for them as well. A lot of people really like South Carolina this year. So I don't know, man. I just kind of think that
they've got Notre Dame late in the season, and this is very interesting. At least from these beginning rankings. Let me get back here. All right, you've got Notre Dame, or you've got Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5. And then with this USC angle, okay, we don't know what the Big 12 is going to be. Oklahoma's retooling, but it doesn't seem to ever really matter. This is the most preseason love Baylor's gotten, ever.
Maybe.
But again, it's really hard to put your eggs in a basket of a team that's solid everywhere, but you don't know what they're going to be at quarterback. Yeah. That's what I can't believe Clemson's 4, but I look at the rest of the list of teams. It's who else would be 4? I'm not really sure. But Clemson and Notre Dame, and USC play each other. So Notre Dame plays both Clemson and SC. SC plays Notre Dame, and Clemson plays Notre Dame.
Wow.
Notre Dame's always in that 4 seed, but they start the season with Ohio State at Ohio State.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's a neutral and they're the road team or if it's truly at Ohio State. I think it's at Ohio State though. So they start the season at Ohio State. And then they have Clemson beginning of November, USC to end November. And so depending on how those seasons go, and Russ, the one thing I would say as a small caveat to what you said is I agree if you're not in the SEC, you almost need to be undefeated with the exception of you have to be undefeated in conference play.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
No,
you can
Yeah.
If Notre Dame loses to Ohio State at the beginning of the season, if they roll through everybody else that they need, and then they beat Clemson in early November, and they're sitting there at, that would be 8-1, I think, counting very quickly. Even though they haven't really beaten anybody that great, if they're 8-1 and their only losses to Ohio State, and Ohio State's 9-0,
yeah,
they're gonna be. If they beat SC at the end of the year, then they're gonna be in. That's just gonna happen. I think the threats are, and this has become the traditional with the 4 team, is the SEC is gonna get 2 spots.
Yeah.
That's what they get. The Big Ten's getting a spot more than likely. And so then it's been the Pac-12 or Notre Dame. And so if it ain't broke, why would we change it? I don't know if SC is ready to take it yet.
Yep.
Then conference realignment is going to happen. And whenever these conference realignments truly begin to take place, they've got to expand. If not, you're going to end up with teams. I mean, they're going to have to. But
so what happens? What happens if we get down to playoff selection time? And we've got the 3 that we talked about, right? And then nobody in the ACC, the Pac-12, or the Big 12 has fewer than 2 losses. Because
you mean you get Pittsburgh winning the ACC like last year?
It's possible. Even Clemson, even if Clemson wins the ACC, they could still easily have at least 2 losses, right? So does that mean
Clemson's schedule is so soft? If they're a 2-loss team, I don't see how them as a 2-loss team.
So who gets in? Who gets in that scenario? Let's say Notre Dame also has 2 losses, right? Because obviously they've got a gauntlet of a schedule every year, and I don't know that anybody's super confident in them. First-year head coach, They lose Brian Kelly, a lot of new staff members. So
I
go
think
ahead, Russ.
I think if there's an SEC team that's only lost one,
3,
I think they would. I really do. This sounds insane saying that, but I mean, they know that people know the bias is there. Does that make sense? Like they would never say that. They would never admit to it, but like it's like a worst kept secret. So then they, do we choose a 2-loss team from another conference, or do we just find it, this third? And there's going to be pushback, but there's going to be pushback no matter what they do. Also, a caveat for what you said, Daniel, and I think that goes into this conversation. Recency bias is very real everywhere, particularly in college football. And so I think if that one loss, ACC or Big 12 or Pac-10, whoever, if it's at the beginning of the season, then it's much less. But if it happens a game or 2 games before, then it hurts a lot more. That's all. So.
And then
being the go ahead.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, what about a team like Houston? If they're out there, let's say they have one loss, they get one blemish somewhere along the line. If it comes down to it, do you take a 2, potentially 3-loss SEC school, or do you take a 1-loss American Athletic Conference champion?
I don't know. They've had a kind of precedent set with that in the sense of who was it last year? Was it
Cincinnati?
So I think because that happened, that there's a door for that. But like that team, let's use Houston as an example. They would have had to destroy every other team. They couldn't even have 1 or 2 games that were close. Like they would have had to have been winning by multiple touchdowns and just creaming everybody to really have a conversation, in my opinion.
There's not a team. There is not a team on Houston's schedule that is currently ranked.
Okay.
I would say their biggest games, they go to Lubbock week 2 to play the Red Raiders and get tortillas tossed at them.
If the Red Raiders score.
Yeah. If they have to kick off. So you're going to get at least some tortillas at one of the halves. Honestly, that's their biggest game. They play at SMU. That's always a good one, but like they don't play anybody based off preseason. So I want to take this a different direction. I want to stick with your 3. All right, if we do 3 SEC teams, and then you've got, oh God, this is going to be painful, but we're the unbiased sports show of the people, so we're going to do it.
Are we?
Alabama, Georgia are in. Who's the next highest preseason ranked team? It is the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies, and I am looking at their schedule, and they avoid Georgia. Their crossover games are pretty light. They've got Florida, but they've got Alabama early, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, it is.
They've got Arkansas at home. They go to Tuscaloosa. So, oh, God, they got dealt a tough hand. They've got 3 straight SEC road games. Rough. They go to Mississippi State, Alabama, off week, then South Carolina. So that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But then they get LSU at home, and LSU is that last game. So if A&M, even if they lose to Alabama by anything short of 40, if they beat Florida, if they go to Auburn and win in November, they're going to destroy UMass. And then if they beat LSU, they could be outside of their conference championship looking in. But, yeah, if A&M goes 11-1, they're in. I write it down right now, and I hate to say it, but the SEC has that much power. I also think that, this is probably the case every year, but, this is the least convincing 4, 5, 6 because OU is this question mark. But I agree to what you said, Russ, about recency bias. I think the College Football Playoff Committee is praying for a relevant 4 seed again because it's only happened once, I'm pretty sure, and that was Ohio State when they won it.
Yep.
Other than that 1-4 game has been a bloodbath. And so, they've gone with Notre Dame a couple times. It hasn't gone well. They've gone with OU in the Big 12, and it's gone terribly. They gave Cincy a shot last year, and they're just praying somebody keep it under a game in the second half. And then if you do that, then I think as college football fans, we should be praying for that, and here is truly why. I think that is a part of the hesitation. I think it's also – why hasn't it expanded? It's control. But if we could get this thing a little bit more competitive, I think that's what they're afraid. They're like, dude, if we expand to 8 teams, then that 1-8 is going to be 85-0, and it's like no one wants to watch that, and probably not, but it's football, so people are going to watch it.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. And you're right in the sense of, honestly, no matter what, the 1-8's not going to be that watch anyways, unless you're one of the two. But the 2-7, going to be more. The 3-6, definitely more. Like it's more. It's more money. Like it's more games. It's more competition.
It's more games that matter. I agree.
Games that matter, and that's what blows my mind where they haven't done it yet. Like these are games of importance. Now, 80% of the time, can we usually call it? Yeah, probably. But that's okay, because that's why people watch sports, because anything can happen. And is it rare that the underdog wins? Yes, but people lose their mind whenever they do, and it brings on legacy and just more love and all that. So it's just no brainer. Like, do it. It's not. They have to whenever expansion happens. I just don't see how they do.
Yep. Can I give y'all two things with NIL? I heard this today. So name, image, and likeness. It's turning the sports world on its face. This is a piece of last year, the number one NIL deal. I don't care about money. I care about name. Alabama. This is from last year. Alabama's JaQuincy Kool-Aid McKinstry signs an NIL deal with the drink company Kool-Aid. His name is Kool-Aid. He is Kool-Aid's signature athlete. Okay. I honestly didn't think the day would come whenever it gets outdone until this year. And I've known about this kid for a while because he was on Texas's radar. And so I've been hearing about the kid's name. His birth name is DeColdest Crawford.
I've heard about this kid.
Yeah. Yeti?
DeColdest Crawford. He signed with Nebraska. He has announced an NIL deal this week with SOS HVAC Heating and Cooling Company in Nebraska, and it's the best thing I've ever heard.
That's awesome.
So, sorry, I just needed to share those two things. I did not think Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry would be dethroned, but the coldest has come and has taken the
Is it odd, though, that most of college football season in Nebraska, it actually is going to be cold outside, so wouldn't you want it to be the warmest, not the coldest? I mean, it's the other half of the year you want it to be the coldest, right?
I'm just disappointed that NIL wasn't around whenever DeBrickashaw was playing.
Yes. Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Yeah.
And so many opportunities.
William the Refrigerator Perry could have done well with Whirlpool. Ken Moore. All this. Yeah.
All right. So I've got to ask, because I also have about 5 minutes and I've got to dip. So let's end on a light one.
Sure.
If you were a college athlete, let's just say even in life, let's just say NIL was happening in life, who would you want your sponsor to be, your relationship to be with? Either because you like that company or just because you think it's clever. Does that make sense? And I'm up for this question, so I have no idea what my answer is.
Okay, I'm going to take this I'll take it 3 very short directions. Number one, if I'm going off of my name, Taylor, I've got tailor-made golf clubs, different things like that. So I might go that direction.
Yeah,
if I'm going off of this piggies to one of my favorite questions just to ask people as a filler is like, if you can eat at one restaurant for the rest of your life, like what would it be? So like, I'd love to be sponsored by Cheesecake Factory because just the variety, man, the quality and the variety is just out there. I think probably from a, like, what would I get the most out of? And like, it's a different world in this pandemic waning / post / whatever it might be. I think being sponsored by any kind of like international airline where you can fly anywhere, I think that'd be pretty legit. You could just go and see so many things. And so like, if you're on, I don't even know, but like Qatar Airways or British Airways or something that just flies everywhere. Like if we've got major ports on 6 of the 7 continents, because I don't really want to go to Antarctica, I'm good with that. So I would probably go with one of the luxury nationwide commercial airlines.
That's good. Matt, what you got, buddy?
Okay, so being a marathon runner, if I was to be sponsored by anybody, right? Hopefully that means that I'm doing well, right? That I'm putting up some good numbers. You know, I'm doing well in the majors. I'm an elite marathon runner at the age of 40, right? So I can't back Nike, guys. That too much social stuff there, and I don't like to get political, but
I'm with you.
I can't back Nike, even though I will admit that I do run in Nike shoes most of the time. But I really like what Asics is doing recently in the running space. I also like what Saucony is doing recently in the running space. Lots of innovation there. So I would say either one of those companies, give me a call. We can work something out.
I like it. That's a good
signature shoe. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
I need you guys' help on mine. So my last name is Holler, just like you're yelling at me.
Holler.
A lot of opportunity with that.
Man,
because it just to go with my last.
You need to go communication, man. You can go with you can go with like the more traditional, like you could go with like an AT&T. You could go with a phone of your choice.
Okay.
You could also go with like these larger scale communication networks, business communications, Comcast, anything like that, man.
I like it.
Yeah, your tag. Well, no matter where you go, your tagline needs to be "Holler at your boy." Like I think that's just an easy one. Yeah, you could do. We all have like last names that you could do stuff with.
Yeah.
Matt, you could have gone to Turner Broadcasting Network. You could be sponsored by TNT.
Sadly, there's no relation, DT. Since the moment I came out of the womb, I wish that was the case, but. I'm as related.
Same thing with
to
me
him.
and pretty much every famous tailor ever. I wish that there was something, but there's like 5 billion of us. So,
all I know on that is because I don't know any famous hollers. I don't think there is any. What I do know is that this is the weirdest ending to a podcast ever, but let's go for it. My great father was Bradford, who came over on the Mayflower, William Bradford. And you can actually go. Now, as you guys have learned, Wikipedia is 100% true, everything it says on it. So you can actually go to Wikipedia, and there's an article that says famous descendants of William Bradford. And you can look up, and so I'm distantly related to all these guys. It's like Julia Childs, the Baldwin brothers, which I don't know that I want to claim all of that, but I think one of them. That's all right. Played Words with Friends. You guys remember whenever Words with Friends was taking over? Like that. I played around Words with Friends. I with Alec Baldwin one time. So, but yeah, just go take a chance.
Wow.
I'm distantly related to all of them. So weirdest ending ever. We're calling it there.
That is insane, man. That is crazy. Well, we know that we have a celebrity on the show now, so that's a good thing. That gives us some additional cred. So I'm thinking next week, Russ, we need to deep dive into the college football conferences a little bit more. As we were talking about that, oh my gosh, what amazing races I think that we're gonna have really in just about everything outside of maybe the Big Ten. You know, I think a lot of people think Ohio State is going to run away with that, but the SEC, even with Georgia, Alabama again, obviously. So just to preview things, I'm going ahead. I'm adding that to our list next week.
100%. Let's do it. Let's deep dive. We don't have anything else so far for next week, so stay tuned. Come on, let's see. Maybe Kevin Durant.
Comment. What do you guys want to see? Right? Comment down below. What do you want to see next week?
Man, so it's been a pleasure. You guys have fun, and we'll catch you guys next week.
That sounds great. Love you guys. We'll see you later.